Hey guys, I made paper Easter baskets and here's what I did. These are small baskets, but you could just adjust it to whatever size you want. I used 12 inch by 12 inch cardstock. First I made a 12 inch by 3 1/4 of an inch rectangle. I marked 1/4 of an inch on one side so I know where to glue it. Then I connected the ends. I folded about 1/2 inch of regular printer paper and cut along the edge. Then I glued one side of the folded printer paper to the rim. I added a bit of another strip to complete the circle. I cut slits on the other side of the printer paper. For the base, I made a 3 3/4 of an inch circle. If you're unsure of what size to make your circle, make it bigger than you think it should be. You could always trim it down to size after it's assembled. Add glue to the slits and connect it to the base. I trimmed the extra paper around it. I made eyes using a hole puncher and cut out a triangle with rounded corners for the nose. Then glued them to the front. I made a template for the ears. It was about 1 3/8 of an inch by 3 3/4 of an inch. I traced it onto cardstock twice and cut it out. Then I made the template a bit smaller and traced it onto cardstock for the inside part of the ear. I glued the inside part to the outside part. Then I attached them to the basket. I added holes to the sides of the basket using an X-Acto. Then added string and knotted the ends. I glued a pom-pom to the back to make a tail. I made another basket using gray cardstock. This time I glued the face before connecting the ends. For the name tag, I drew a carrot template and cut it out. The root was 1 1/4 of an inch by 3 1/4 of an inch, and the leaves are 1 1/2 inch by 1 3/4 of an inch. I traced them onto orange and green cardstock, then cut them out. Glued the pieces together, then write on it. I glued a wooden skewer to the back and added another orange piece to cover it. Then cut the pointed end of the skewer. Add treats and your baskets are done.